So, music and social media was quietly slowing my progress. And when I was back in university, I did a very certain number of things. The music that I would listen to was often very depressing. It was often very sort of sad music, and I would listen to it every time I went for an evening walk, and even time when I was at the gym. And even when it came to social media, the stuff that I was sort of watching, consuming, it was generally just that sort of, I guess I could call it pity content. And what did I do, right? Because these inputs really shaped the behaviors and the action that I took. And I'm all for the idea of the inputs that I take in shaping the action that I can put out. And when I was constantly taking in sad music, it basically meant that my almost like default state was just, feeling really just depressed, feeling really hopeless. And it's very strange because the feeling that I got there was almost as if, life is, awful. I'm never going to be able to do anything with my life. But there was something really freeing about that because I could almost push all my actual responsibilities onto the world. And that was obviously a huge issue because when you're trying to build and improve on yourself, you need to take accountability. And that's the exact thing that I just didn't have, or at least when I kept putting myself in that depressive, sad state, then that was one thing. So one of the things and that I really did make a change on, I think about probably a couple of years ago, was just cutting out sad music entirely. I don't really listen to music full stop, and that's obviously just a personal preference thing. But I found that things like music, at least, really does play a big part in how you feel. If you always listen to sad and emotional music, then that's going to make you more prone to feeling in that state. And yeah, obviously, maybe you could sort of say the same thing for sort of, more happier music. For me, I find that I just want to get myself away from overdoing music, which, like I said before, I don't really do too much of, just because I want the sort of emotional state that I have to be pretty stable. And I think a lot of people do want to have that as well. But obviously, it's a matter of if they really sort of try for that. Then, of course, there's the whole thing with social media as well. And honestly, it's a similar thing, right? Because the content that I was sort of, looking at and consuming, aka my inputs that were coming in, was still pretty depressive, right? Like there's a lot of content out there which is either there out to annoy you, but also there's a lot of content out there that's just simply out there to like almost relate to your pains, but it doesn't really tell you how to get out of it. It just sits there and draws that pain out or amplifies the pain you currently have. I mean, there's plenty of content out there, of people talking about how lonely they are or like, and that's the sort of stuff which, people look at. And if they feel and resonate with that, then it's like, well, obviously that video is going to get a lot, but that doesn't solve the problem. It just keeps you with that, it just amplifies the pain. Just like how for me, I found, listening to sad music also amplified the pain. But what I've also noticed in looking back now, I realized that the inputs I was taking in, sad music and depressive content and whatever, meant that how on earth was I even supposed to output anything remotely productive when I kept putting my emotional state in a far worse a state than it really needed to be? But also, like, well, yeah, just generally the inputs I was taking in was just garbage. And when I look at my sort of inputs now, for reference, first of all, obviously, like I said before, like I don't really listen to music so much. And if I did listen to more music, I'd try and be pretty selective with it. But the second thing is also with social media. I mean, I deleted social media or the social media stuff that I did have a few years ago. And now I just use things like social media pretty much just for either business or for creative projects. But generally speaking, I've got plenty of filters and whatever on to mean that I never even look at scrolling or doing anything like that. So I guess really this is just really what I wanted to share with this video. I'm not really going to sort of share about how I think that you should sort of live your life with this, but in my experience in terms of what I was doing, I found that I wanted to try and be productive. I wanted to try and do these sort of things and set out to do these things. But because my inputs were just complete garbage, because my inputs were weakening me and just putting me into a weaker state and taking my accountability and strength away, it caused far too many issues. So if you're someone that maybe can relate with this, perhaps you do sort of listen to, maybe sad or more depressive music, or perhaps you are sort of a bit caught up in social media stuff, really just consider the actual inputs you're taking in, right? And just ask yourself things such as, are these inputs actually supporting me in any way, shape, or form? And by doing that, just actually reducing the inputs coming in, right? For me, like in terms of the content I actually consume in a day, like maybe I watch like a video or two, right? And that's, perhaps more longer form videos. But like I see so many people that will obviously, when people are scrolling, when people are, watching things while doing other things, and like all of a sudden they're like they've watched at least 15 to 20 videos in a day. And it's like your brain has got so much input, so much stuff that's been chucked in. And so I just think it's so difficult for a lot of people, and like I said myself before, to be able to even output anything when you've got so much stuff coming in. So I'd want to make that video and just giving you more awareness of that. But hopefully you found this sort of useful and this sort of story interesting. But that said, I'll catch you soon.